Good morning. Today we are working on logarithmic properties and solving logarithms. This is TEKS Algebra 2 5D. We're going to be solving exponential and logarithmic equations. So before I get into teaching you how to solve logs, I do want to introduce just what logs are. Because for most people, they just see another word in math and don't really understand. So log stands for logarithms, and it was invented before calculators, and it helped them to do like long multiplication problems a lot quicker. So there are still logs being used today. So you say that we have calculators now. Yes, but logarithms are still used for these jobs plus several others. So coroners have to use logs to figure out how long a body's been dead. An actuary is somebody who works for like an insurance company who will like decide, how much is it going to cost you to have insurance based on the probability of you dying at a certain age. Medicine uses it, archaeologists use it, zoologists use it, crime scene investigators use it. So logs and natural logs, and a lot of these occur in nature. Okay, so just a little brief overview of what logs are. So that's why we practice. We don't know what job you're going to be, but that way it can help you in the future in case you do decide a job that requires some math skills. So let's get into actually talking about the properties of logs. Now, in order to solve logs, you have to know these three properties, okay? So these are important to write down. So M and N just stand for positive real numbers. So these have to be positive real numbers. And B cannot be equal to 1. Okay, so that's just the rules here. And that doesn't, none of our problems are going to have this issue, but these only work if this is true. So we have the product property. So log base B of M times N. This can be a 4x. Then you could break it up to log base B of 4 plus log base B of x. So if you have two things being multiplied, you can actually add them together. If you have the quotient property, a quotient means division. So if you have M divided by N, we're going to subtract. And if you have log base B of M raised to the n power, the power property says that this n, your exponent, is going to come in front of it. So these three properties are going to be used throughout this lesson. So I put the properties on there again, but they're not going to be on any more slides, just this one. So let's look at this. So example number 1, what property is this? Well, I'm dividing, which is called a quotient property. So when I divide, that means I'm going to follow this. So log base B of the numerator minus log base B of the denominator. So before we get into solving, we have to learn how to be able to solve this, okay, to expand it. Now, here's my dilemma. I don't know what those are. How do I combine those? Well, on this first two slides, they're going to give you some numbers that you can actually use for approximation. So log base 2 of 3 is 1.585. And then we see log base 2 of 7 is this. So notice that they gave me log base 2 of 3 and they gave me log base 2 of 7 so that I can actually finish solving these. Okay, so minus 2.807. So I'm actually going to just subtract those. And my answer, and it's approximately, okay? So when you see an equal sign, like that, that's an approximate symbol. This is approximately negative 1.222. Okay, the next one, log base 2 of 21. Well, remember, all they gave me was the 3 and the 7. How do I get 3 and 7 to turn into 21? Well, I can multiply them. So log base 2 of 3 times 7. Okay, so when I multiply 3 times 7, that is called a product property. So log base B of the first number plus log base B of the second number. So again, using the information they gave us, I'm going to go ahead first and rewrite this as log base 2 of 3 plus log base 2 of 7. Now using the same numbers I had, this time instead of subtracting them, I am going to add them. And when I add those together, I get approximately, okay, 4.392. Okay, now remember, if you guys don't know where I'm getting these numbers from, they gave me the information. They gave me those numbers. Okay, and the next one is log base 2 of 49. Well, I only have the 3 and the 7. How do I make 3 or 7 turn into 49? Well, what if I square the 7? So log base 2 of 7 squared. We agree that 7 squared is 49. Now, this one we're going to use the power property. If it has an exponent, the exponent is going to come in front of it and multiply by it. So this is 2. So this 2 goes in front. 2 times log base 2 of 7. Well, I know log base 2 of 7 because it gave it to me. 2 times 2.807. Okay, so when I multiply those, I get approximately 5.614. Okay, so now again, they're going to give us the information we need to solve these. Okay, so we have log base 6 of 5, and we have log base 6 of 8. Go ahead, using the 3 properties we just learned, solve number 1 and 2. Pause this video, and when you come back, the answers are going to be there. Okay, hopefully you got these right. Let me go ahead and explain what we did. Because we were dividing, we used the quotient property, and the quotient property basically said to expand it with a subtraction sign. So log base 6 of the numerator minus log base 6 of the denominator, which these two logs, they gave them to us. So I subtracted them and got negative 0.263. I had a 40, but remember, all I had was a 5 and an 8. How do I get a 40 from 5 and 8? Well, I multiply them. And the product property says when I multiply two of them, I can actually add them together to get my answer. Okay. Go ahead and try number 3 and 4 on your own. Pause the video. When you come back, your answer will be there. Check your work on number 3. Pause the video again. The reason I unpaused it there when I didn't plan to was because I wanted you to make sure that you knew that we were doing the power property and that this number goes in front of it. And so we had 2 times the log base 6 of 8. Okay, so 2 times 1.161. Remember, these numbers are coming from here. Okay, and this is my answer. Now for 125, remember I only have 5 and 8. How do I get 125? Well, 5 to the 3rd power is 125. I brought the 3 in front, and it was 3 times log base 6 of 5. So 3 times 0.898. Okay. Now, we're going to expand these. Now, these are not going to have numerical answers. Okay, these are going to have our variables in it. So example number 1. We have a couple things going on here. First, I have a 10, I have an x to the 5, and when I look at this, my first thing I saw was, oh, it's a power property. This needs to go in front. Well, I can't, though, because that 5 is not attached to the 10. That 5 is only attached to the x. So what you actually see here is that you have a 10 times an x to the 5th. So we're going to break it up first before I do it. What property is 10 times x to the 5th? That's the product property. So when I have two things being multiplied, log of 10 plus log of x to the 5th. Okay, so that's product property. The next step is the power property. Now this 5 can go in front of here. Okay, So log base 10 of 10. Remember, if the log doesn't have a base on the bottom, it does have a base 10. So log of 10 plus 5 log of x. Can I go any further? No. I mean, and remember that some of these in the long run can have very, very similar answers, because log of 10 could actually be 20 over 2. It can be different things. So we're gonna expand these just as much as, you know, what we see. So the second one, natural log of 3x minus 6. So I have the natural log of 3 times x divided by 6. So again, I have two things going on here. On my numerator, which I'm going to do first, okay? So the numerator of natural log of 3x, that is the product property, okay? So natural log of 3 plus natural log of x. Now, after I do that, I'm dividing it by that 6. So the quotient property says when I divide, I'm actually subtracting. And yes, this was just one line, okay? Sorry, my pen is skipping. Now let's get a little bit harder. Look at number 3. I have a lot going on here. I have a 5x to the 7th on the top. So I have 5 times x to the 7th. So those are being added together. So I can write that. Natural log of 5 plus natural log of x to the 7th. And when I divide by that y, the quotient property tells me that I subtract the natural log of y. Now, am I done? Well, I'm never going to have an exponent here. So I'm going to bring that in front of it because the power property says if I have an exponent, it can go in front of it. So this is going to be natural log of 5 plus 7 natural log of x minus the natural log of y. Okay. So now I have 4 questions here for you to practice. I'm not going to explain them in very much detail when I unfreeze my screen, but I'll do them one at a time so you can check your work and see if you make any mistakes. So try number 1. Okay, now go ahead and pause the video and try number 2. Okay, try number 3 on your own. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, go ahead and try number 4 on your own. Pause the video. Okay, so write these all down. If you can't go back and look at your rules and figure out what you did wrong or how to do these, then leave me a comment and I can do my best to come back and answer it. Okay. Now we're going to work on condensing a logarithmic expression. So basically we're going to work backwards, but we're still using the same 3 properties. So on example number 1, I noticed a minus sign here. So the quotient property, so if you need to write that down, the quotient property says that when I'm subtracting, I was really dividing. So here we're actually going to have the natural log of 6 over 10. And if you can reduce it, you reduce it. The natural log of 6 over 10 can actually be reduced to natural log of 3 over 5. Okay, so this is just a condense, and we'll condense as much as possible. So if I were to try a calculator, if I plug this in my calculator, or this, these are all equivalent to each other. It's important to know how to expand and condense because when we get into solving, you need to know how to work these properties. So here I see a couple things going on. I see a plus sign. A plus sign signifies that it is the product property. But what about this 6 in the front and this 4 in the front? So I have 2 properties going on here. I have the product property and I have the power property. The power property says that if I have an exponent, that exponent goes in front. So how do I work backwards is this is going to go to the exponent. This is going to go to the exponent. So now I have a log base x to the 6th power plus log base y, log of y to the 4th power. Okay, so that was the power property. Product property says when I'm adding two logs together with the same base, of course, I'm actually multiplying them. And then that is my final answer since I can't go any further. Okay, let's try a couple more together. Now these get a little bit longer. So this first one here, I see a number in front. That means that this was the power property. And I see subtraction signs. Oh, and I see double subtraction signs. That gets a little bit tricky. I want to explain the double subtraction signs. So I'm going to actually rewrite it. Because I can't divide and then divide again. Okay, that's not possible. But do you agree that if I put parentheses here, that those are equal to each other? Yes, those are still equal to each other. So if I see a double negative, I'm going to factor out the double negative, okay? So now I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do the power property right here. So this 4 is actually going to go backwards, okay? And I'm going to do the product property, which says when I'm adding them, I was really multiplying them. So now I have ln of y to the 4th power minus ln of 5x. Okay? So I've used the two rules. Now the other rule I'm going to use here with the subtraction sign is the quotient property. If I'm subtracting, that means I can go backwards and do division. So natural log y to the 4th divided by 5x. Okay, remember we're working backwards here. So I had 4 different things going on here. Okay, so let's try a long one again. I see a plus sign, okay, and I see a minus sign. I don't have to factor out the double negative, okay, because there is not one. What I do see here is if I have a coefficient, that this was really an exponent. So that's going to go backwards and become the exponent. So I have log of 9 plus log of 2 cubed minus log of 3. Well, guys, I can do 2 cubed, okay? There's no variable there. What is 2 to the 3rd power? 2 times 2 times 2 is actually an 8. So log of 9 plus log of 8 minus log of 3. Okay? So now, according to the order of operations, I'm going to do the adding first and then the subtraction. So when I add, what was really happening? When I add, I was really multiplying. So log of 9 times 8. And yes, I kind of wrote it high. And why did I do that? Because this minus sign means that this is being divided. So that's going to go on the bottom. Okay? And we simplify as much as we can. There's no variables here, so I'm going to actually keep working this out. What is 9 times 8? 72. So this is the log of 72 divided by 3. Well, what is 72 divided by 3? The answer is log of 24. Okay, So again, remember that if I type this in a calculator, or this, or this, or this, they're all the same. What would you rather work with, all of this, or you'd rather get here? Okay, so we're going to condense as much as possible. I can't condense this anymore. Okay, so now that I've done 4 examples, I want you to do some practice ones. Go ahead and practice number 1 and 2 on your own. Pause the video. When you come back, your answer will be there. Okay, go ahead and check your work, and I also did write the properties there so that you can see what properties we used. So go ahead and try practice 3 and 4 on your own. Go ahead and pause this video. Okay, go ahead and check your work there. Again, if you can't figure out what was done, leave me a comment and ask any questions, and I can try to do my best to go ahead and explain it to you. Okay, so now we're just going to practice using all the rules again. So we're almost done with this video, but just so you guys can practice more on your own to see if you understand it. So this is going to be 4 questions on practicing expanding, and we'll do 4 practice questions on practicing condensing. So go ahead and just, try number 1 and 2 on your own, and I will go back and explain these ones. Go ahead and pause your video here and try number 1 and 2 on your own. Okay, here we expanded. On the first one, I just used product property. Product property says when I'm multiplying 2 of them, I can actually add 2 of them. Okay, the second one, I started off with the product property, the same thing. When I'm multiplying 5 times x cubed, I'm adding them. The next property I used was the power property, says that when I have an exponent, the exponent goes in front of the log. Okay, so go ahead and try number 3 and 4 on your own. Go ahead and pause the video. Well, there's number 3. Go ahead and try number 4. Pause the video. Okay, sorry about that. I had to zoom in there. Okay, so practice number 3, I went ahead and did down here. I started with the quotient property, so I subtracted my denominator. Then the 3y turned into a product property, and I added them together. For practice number 4, I started with the quotient property of subtracting my denominator. And then I did the product property, and I added these 2 together. The next step in blue was the power property, which meant I took the exponent and wrote the exponent in front of the natural log. So that was practicing expanding. And here are 4 questions to practice condensing. Go ahead and try number 1 and 2 on your own. Pause this video. Okay, number 1, pretty easy. When I'm subtracting, I'm really dividing. Practice 2, you probably thought you did something wrong, because I don't know what I was thinking, but apparently this is natural log of 1024. Okay, I started with the power and then went to the product. Now, number 3 and 4 get a little bit harder, so let's go ahead and just do number 3 on your own. Pause the video. Okay, on practice number 3, I started with the power property, which means that my coefficients were actually exponents on both of these, so I wrote both of these. That's what I went from power to that. Next, I did the red, which is the product property, which means when I'm adding, I was really multiplying them. The next step I did was the quotient property, because I saw a subtraction sign. When I'm subtracting, I'm really dividing. So that's your final answer. Go ahead and try number 4 on your own. It's our last problem for this video. Pause this video. Okay, so practice number 4, we also started with the power property, which means when I have a coefficient, my coefficient was really the exponent. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, then I did the product property that says when I'm adding, I was really multiplying. Now I did go ahead and do 2 cubed was 8, and 4 squared was 16. Next property was quotient property. Says when I'm subtracting logs, I was really dividing them. So I had 8y cubed over 16. Now this is correct, but guys, always reduce if you can reduce. What does 8 over 16 reduce to? The answer is 1 over 2. Okay, so hopefully you learned how to expand and condense and a little bit of like solving. We'll get into more solving on the next video. If this video helped you at all, please give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment. If you want to subscribe to this channel, I will be posting more educational videos. Have a great day.